Hi. I thought today I would talk about communication and the importance of good communication. It's something that a lot of times people will take communication for granted, uh, and yet communication is one of those things where it's easy you're if basically you start off a conversation the wrong way, you can set somebody off pretty easily. So one of the things that you may have heard, there's a book, Crucial Conversations, and if, for instance, you start a conversation and a person's not expecting it, and it's a heavy conversation, um, automatically they start thinking, their limbic system, their fight or flight kicks in, and their frontal lobe stops working. And so they can become angry and combative in a conversation. So usually you want to, if you're going to have a more difficult conversation, kind of ease into it. So just as one point. But another thing, when it comes to communication, ideally using I statements instead of you statements. And you may have heard this before, but for instance, saying, you know, I feel bad when this happens, or versus saying, you made me feel bad. And using you statements automatically will put somebody on the defensive. So just try to keep that in mind. But communication in general, I think, is one of the most important things in any relationship, whether it's work, or personal, or romantic. One of the best things is to always be looking at to not let the sun go down on an argument. That's something that I think is important. If you've got a disagreement with your loved one, you want to talk it out. You want to be able to communicate, and one of the things is always to keep in mind what you feel for the person, and ideally what they feel for you. And I used to be on city council years ago, and it was interesting because sometimes what would happen is people would start arguing about a topic, and a lot of times what would happen, the politics would get in the way, and it in and the arguments would end up being where it wasn't about what it was about. Instead, it would become the personalities, the arguing, and more than once, I was one who I'd stop. Finally get called on the dais and say, okay, let's pull this back a little bit. And we all want what's best for Rapid City. We just disagree on how to get there. And just sometimes reminding people that that you both want the same thing. You just disagree on how to get there. And that can happen when with child rearing, raising your kids, or almost anything. But remember those common denominators. If you're in a loving relationship, to keep that in your mind and in your heart. That's an important thing. Um, but there again, if you don't have any communication with somebody, that puts you at a disadvantage. And that's why, to me, I believe it's very, very important. I know for me, one of my probably I'd say character flaw is that if I don't have communication with someone, I end up writing, and I'll write letters or whatever, just so I'm communicating. But there again, it's becomes a monologue, and it's not a dialogue with someone. So it's very, very different, and not actually a healthy means of communication. So ideally, you're able to sit down with a person face to face, and always try to be as congenial as possible, even when you're dealing with something that's difficult and challenging, and give the other person a chance to speak. Don't cut them off. That's something too, because if you cut somebody off, they'll feel like you're disempowering them, or what have you. So give them that opportunity to speak, but also make sure that they give you that opportunity to speak. So just some ideas. But communication, absolutely one of the most important things. And with the holidays too, there's a lot of things that sometimes you need to communicate, whether it be plans or what have you. And as people are busy, if it's something important, ask the person to, okay, did you get that? Can you repeat that back to me? We're going to do it this day. Can you tell me what I just said? Just to make sure that they've received that information. If somebody can recite that back, it goes into their memory a little better too. So anyway, hope everybody has a wonderful day, and enjoy.